ever encountered that person, which, let's be honest, I certainly have with me always talking to those annoying celebrities as my vocation, come across someone who, let's be honest, you try to talk to them and you try and engage them in a reasonable conversation and you basically end up talking to like a brick wall. Well, it turns out there is a phrase for this expression for these people. The fact that they're blank in the face and so forth. We like to call it, in the studio here, in the Thomas Taylor studio, we like to call it something known as floating. Now we've got very good friends who are great floaters. Those are those beings or people, those great human specimens, which when you go talking to them, it's almost like they hardly exist. So, 10 signs I have got up for you, which have been made up on the spot because, hey, this is how we do things in the Thomas Taylor Show. We have no script, we have no life. To get you these results of knowing if you may be talking to someone who like to do a bit of the old float, you know, the good old float. Floating in a blue lagoon. Oh, before I begin, I must do it before Russell kills me, or kills Thomas. On that note is our barbershop quartet, which you can like now on Facebook and go to any of their events, such as the Flower Gate, which will be hosted in the 1st of June, and others. So, advertising over, number one. Number one sign that you may be dealing with someone who is a floater is if you realise that their diet consists of very small things. Now it may be, you know, something else, but usually if someone only has beans on toast, let's say for argument's sake how you're doing, or something very minuscule which is their dinner time or something like that, a lot of the times those people are very hard to engage with. Reason is they hardly eat much. So if they hardly eat much, they hardly got the energy. If they hardly got the energy, then they're talking like this. You know, it's a bit of a problem. You know, so watch out. If they're eating very small things, watch out. Watch out. Number two, if this person is so lazy and so, you know, slothy and all sorts that they need to wake themselves up with 4 cups of coffee, you're dealing with someone A, who has a caffeine dependency, and B, someone who is a floater. Downright a floater. If they need to wake themselves up with coffee, they don't have the energy in themselves to breathe. So we all know they are a floater. Number 3, if you try and talk to them about a serious matter, but they're a bit on the and their voice is a bit whiny, but not necessarily too whiny, or all sorts, that is another clear sign you're dealing with someone who must have an occupational floating. Number 4, if they have a vacant expression such as this, you are dealing with someone definitely either who are hypnotized or they're a bit of a, let's be honest. Number 5, if they if these certain types of people, you suspect them being floaters, if they can't stay on a topic for 2 seconds and keep going to different topics, but not in a sense of direction, but in a sense of, I went to the park the other day, and speaking of the park, did you get the new Linkin Park album? And speaking of your album, I listened to the Arctic Monkeys, and I was in the Arctic the other day, there are monkeys there in the Arctic, and you're dealing with some either who has attention deficit disorder, or they're a bit of a floater, let's be honest. Number 6, people who are floaters, it sounds like a psychological kind of thing here. So you get all your psychologists here, from me, you know. So, number 6, if you're dealing with someone who is a floater, they could also try and wiggle their ways out of things. Now, you know these types of people, they don't necessarily are floaters, but you know, if you are direct with them and saying, this needs to be done, floaters tend to almost like to be coasters and be like, oh yeah, I can do that, but I can also, you know, not do that. Maybe if I was in the dam, I wouldn't. You're dealing with a classic floater. Make sure you stick them to something, because floaters are one thing. They're like jelly. They're very hard to stick to something because they don't know how to stick to anything. You know, it's life. What number are we on, Griego? Is it 7? 5. We're on number 5. I swear I've done 6. So we say 10, that's how good we are. I've been told by Griego, for some variety of angles, that number 10 will be done over here. So how you doing, number 10? The number 10 sign that you're dealing with a floater. Okay, the number 10 sign you're dealing with a floater is if they hardly have any energy to do anything. Okay, that is the number 10 sign. I'm telling you, if you're dealing with someone and they are just like puffed out like Puff Daddy, they're just like, I can't do that. Oh. And they don't have any energy at all. You're doing with a floater. It's just bad because those people, they don't know how to engage people for conversation because they're so out of work with everything else. They're very hard to engage. So those are the top 10, 6 or 7.